Hello everybody, John from Gaming in the Wild here with another month ahead video for you, and 2026 is really hitting its stride this month with a frankly dizzying amount of new indie games coming out. From a Raccoin coin-pushing roguelike to an open-world horseback odyssey to a high-speed anime racing game. We really do have all sorts of stuff coming out this month. 3D platformer fans are getting yet another tempting title, retro gamers are eating well with another Game Boy-style RPG, and we get a couple of big-name sequels that people have been waiting for dropping as well. It is an absolutely stacked month with a whole lot of fresh original indie games on offer. So open up your wishlist while you watch to help you remember the ones that catch your eye, because this is a wild month of indie game releases. And if, like me, you like to keep track of all the games that you've played as well as what's coming out next, I would like to introduce you to Playtracker. It's a free website where you can hook up all your various accounts. Playtracker.net will then record your playtimes in various titles across all platforms, as well as tracking trophy progress and seeing what your friends have been playing as well. I like to cast my eye over my profile at the end of each month just to see what I was playing, and this month my play tracker was a little bit chaotic because of Next Fest. I played 20 plus demos, and some of them I didn't play over half an hour, so they appear here as 0 hours played, but it's really interesting to see the games that really did catch my attention even in demo form. For example, I played 2 hours of Esoteric Ebb, the striking fantasy detective CRPG that is coming out this month. I think a fair bit of that was spent trying to talk a goblin guard into giving me his crossbow, which he then did. It's a really fun game. I also played over an hour of Bonanza, the second game to try and apply Balatro mechanics to chess instead of poker, with quite a bit of success as it turns out. I played an hour of Zero Parades, the Disco Elysium follow-up made by what's left of Zaum Studio. I don't really like it, so I'm surprised to see that one hit an hour. But the demo that I played the most of was 4 hours of Raccoin, more of which later in this video. And all of this while playing 20 hours of Persona 5 Royal and 16 hours of Romeo as a Dead Man, both of which I will review after the game guide section of the video. So Playtracker has turned out to be incredibly useful once again. You can get a free account now from the link in the description if you would like to track your own play, and I will put a link on the screen now for my profile as well, so you can add me as your first Playtracker friend if you would like to. And as always, thanks to Playtracker for sponsoring this video. If you enjoy the video, then please like it. You can subscribe to the channel for more like this. If I've missed a game that you're really looking forward to, then drop a comment to let me know about it. It all helps the algorithm, and with that, let's go. Here are the best indie games coming out in March of 2026. The first game on this month's list is the Abbess Garden, which came out on the 2nd. There are a lot of farming and gardening games out there, but the Abbess Garden has kind of a unique vibe. It is made by game design lecturer Giovanni Rubino, and it's a game in which the player restores the Abbess's personal garden that has been disused for years and become rough, desolate, and overgrown. We play as a young servant called Agnes, and we must cut away weeds, discover what's growing or could grow, and then we till the earth, plant seeds, and take care of all the plants to restore the garden to its former glory and its full potential. The game's vibe reminds me of the classic children's book The Secret Garden, but the setting is just part of this game's story. It has realistic seasons to consider during planting and a detailed garden ecosystem simulation as well, so you will have to pay attention to clues and learn about the soil, the cold, the heat, the moisture tolerance of different plants and so forth. And I feel certain that for someone out there this is a dream game, so I'm happy to put the game on your radar if that is you, and if you're yearning for the start of spring, this could be one to try. It came out on the 2nd on Steam only for now. That's the Abbess Garden. On the 3rd, we get 3 different game releases, one of which joins my most hype picks of the month. That game is Esoteric Ebb, a gripping CRPG that I talked about in the introduction a little bit. That's because it was one of my most played Next Fest demos. I ended up playing 2 solid hours of this demo, and I didn't want to stop, honestly. The game begins when our protagonist wakes up in a cold cellar, having been reanimated from the dead after drowning. We emerge into a strange town packed with interesting characters and slowly discern that our purpose here is as an investigator. There's been a fatal explosion at a tea shop, and it is on us to find out what happened. And if that premise sounds familiar, it might be because it's a fantasy twist on the beginning of Disco Elysium, where we have an amnesiac detective who has to figure out what's up there as well. And the game shares some more similarities with that classic. Your various attributes will appear as voices in your head or competing thoughts, just like in Disco. Doing the right thing and the wrong thing are allowed, and the game lets you experiment and play in a similar way too. And as there is an election going on in this town, you can expect some political thinking as well, and having to put your flag in the sand and decide what kind of person you're going to be. I think this game had a really keen sense of wit and intelligence. I played 2 hours of the demo, and I cannot wait to play the whole thing. That's why it's the first of my 3 most hype picks of March 2026. That's Esoteric Ebb. Next up is Legend of Khiimori, a horseback messenger game, and I tried the demo of this one a couple of Next Fests ago and thought it was rough around the edges but very promising. It's entering early access on the 3rd of March, so hopefully this period of player feedback will help to get it where it needs to be. It's a game about riding horseback through the Mongolian wilderness in the 13th century. You are part of a proud equestrian culture and you spend a lot of time galloping through the wilds from place to place, traversing a difficult untamed landscape, hunting, foraging and caring for your horse and dealing with the tribesmen you meet along the way. The game does include a planning stage like Death Stranding where you can gather supplies and set your route before heading out, and I'm a big fan of games that are just about being in nature with traversal as a focus, so I'm really happy to see this one pop up. It's really ambitious and the rolling landscapes are really something, so I'm really going to be rooting for this game. I think there is the seed of something really special here, and I hope that the early access helps the Legend of Khiimori to fruition when it launches on Steam on the 3rd of the month. Bringing us back into the present day, or the year 2000 at least, is Eternal Afternoon, which also releases on the 3rd. The game is described as a poetic walking sim about wasting time before the end of the world, which was definitely enough to pique my interest. In this game, a giant black wave is about to engulf everything we know, including our protagonist, a 10-year-old called Sasha, who wanders his neighborhood one last time in the 20 minutes before the end. As well as just soaking in the doomy vibes of this moment, the game promises miniature side quests and story moments scattered throughout the neighborhood with fragments of a mystery to discover. It will take multiple playthroughs to uncover all of it, and because it seems like this game is only 20 minutes long on your first run at least, it was designed with speedrunners and completionists in mind, so the game can accommodate both slow, meandering single playthroughs or more sustained play from people who want to find out everything they can before that wave engulfs the town. There's a demo on Steam now if you'd like a taste of what it has to offer, and the full game drops on the 3rd of the month, and I imagine it will be at a pretty wallet-friendly price point as well, being a short game as it is. I think this is a really interesting indie game. That's Eternal Afternoon. This game was a last-minute addition because I just noticed the press release right when I was making the video, but on the 4th we get Homura Hime, which is coming to Steam. It's an anime-style, third-person, stylish action game with high-speed platforming, a memorable cartoon art style, a mixture of combo-based melee combat and intense bullet hell sections, and it's an unusually colourful game in this genre. When we think of stylish action, we might think of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Astral Chain, that kind of thing, Metal Gear Revengeance. They're all a bit murky, but this one really isn't, so it stands out from the pack, and we don't get a huge amount of spectacle fighters of this type today, so an indie version might scratch that itch. That's Homura Hime coming to Steam on the 4th. Retro game fans are having a banner year in 2026, and the pixel fun continues with Ratcheteer DX coming to Steam on the 5th of the month. This game was first released as part of Season 2 on the tiny handheld black and white console, the Playdate, and it's now being ported to Switch, PC and Mac with a glorious Technicolor update, which will also reportedly have CD quality sound, imagine that. It's a top-down Game Boy style adventure set during an impact winter when the world has been frozen into an ice ball. Your cryo colony is in danger of breaking down, and as an engineer, you have to go and get the power plant online, you have to get the water treatment plant up and running, and rescue some missing people from the caverns below. This will include drilling, gliding, stomping and dashing through the game's many levels and trying to become a full-fledged Ratcheteer by the end. The game is a solo dev project by Sean Inman and published by Panic, who clearly thought it could get a second life with this multi-platform release. It's always interesting and fun to see a game jailbreaking the Playdate and coming out for the rest of the world, and there is a demo on Steam now if you want to see if they're right about this one. That's the Ratcheteer coming out on the 5th of the month on Steam. This next game is a big one. It's Planet of Lana II, Children of the Leaf, which is also coming out on the 5th. If you've played the original Planet of Lana, you will know what this one's about, and that is a robotic invasion of a peaceful forest planet. Once again, we play as Lana, who has a little animal buddy along for the ride. We have to stealth past enemies, solve puzzle platform sequences to rescue friends, stay away from giant menacing robots that are on our tail, and try to get to the bottom of what is happening on the Planet of Lana. To be real here, I wasn't a huge fan of the first game. I have a little bit of trouble playing heavily animated games that make the character's movement feel sluggish, especially when pinpoint timing is required. But the game had a lot of fans who were drawn to its Studio Ghibli-style visuals. It had a respectable Metacritic 80, and the sequel will be more of the same, but bigger and with a raft of new environments and mechanics. So fans of the original are in for a treat for sure, and if you like the first game, I'm sure you're in for a treat here. That's Planet of Lana II, Children of the Leaf, which is releasing on the 5th on PC and all the consoles. Our next game is another much anticipated sequel. This time it is Slay the Spire 2, which is entering early access on March the 5th. This is of course the follow-up to the seminal roguelike deck builder that kicked off the tidal wave of similar games that we see today. It's a combat-focused card game where you fight enemies with a push and pull system of getting enough guard up while dealing enough damage. You can power up your cards and gain new abilities, wending your way through a map that offers all kinds of odd story moments and opportunities, and trying to make the perfect build that will get you past a sequence of fearsome bosses and allow you to slay that spire. I have over 100 hours in the original game, which tells you how much I enjoyed it, and I'm curious to see what this new iteration does with the formula, especially because it seems to have 3 of the 5 original characters returning. This surprised me, as learning each character's build and its skills and figuring out how to play as them was really the meat of Slay the Spire 1, so I would have expected an entirely new roster to try and recapture that magic. I do worry that this game will fall into the same trap as Hades 2 did, for me at least. I found it way too familiar to get significantly invested in, having spent scores of hours on the original. We'll find out if Slay the Spire 2 can buck that trend and bring the freshness when it launches into early access on Steam on the 5th of the month. 3D platformer fans have already had a lot to play this year. In January we got Big Hops, in February we got Demon Tides, and on March the 10th we're getting Mr. Sleepy Man. This one is a whimsical, chaotic sandbox adventure set in Bedtown, where the titular Sleepy Man is suffering from a bout of fearsome insomnia and decides to take it out on the entire village around him. In a mold a little reminiscent of Untitled Goose Game, this includes carrying out a bunch of fun, troublemaking tasks, of which there are over 350 to engage with, and doing so looks like a lot of fun in the trailer. You can steal donuts and run off with them, you can careen through town in a stolen car and air glide from place to place. The various unhinged NPCs that you meet will remember how you treated them, which adds a little bit of extra spice to things, and the whole thing is soundtracked by original 00 style alt-rock songs. I think anyone who likes a chaotic sandbox environment to explore and make trouble in could really enjoy this game. That's Mr. Sleepy Man, coming to Steam on the 10th of the month. A different kind of platformer comes out on the same day, and it is weirdly the second egg-based platformer of recent times. After Egging On came to Game Pass last year, now we're getting Ouef, a game in which you play as an egg that's been blown out of its nest and must platform its way back to the top without getting broken. All of this happens in a single rainy world area, and while it has no enemies and no timers, it doesn't look like it will have no pressure, promising challenging moments as you line up an important jump before the next checkpoint. It's a medium-sized adventure with 4 to 10 hours of gameplay, depending on whether you're a speedrunner or not. That's Ouef, out on Steam on the 10th. On the 12th, we were expecting to get Replaced, the cyberpunk platformer that's been delayed for years already. But just as I was making this video and finalising the script, I noticed that Replaced has been quietly yoinked back to April 14th. The release date has itself once again been replaced, so stay tuned for that in April. But honestly, we still have plenty to be getting on with this month, because on the 12th we will see Roadout, an interesting looking game that mixes top-down car exploration with action sequences where you hop out of your vehicle. You will then take on encampments and dungeons in a twin-stick shooter style, like a lo-fi demake of the Mad Max game. The developers quote Zelda, rock and roll racing, and the original Grand Theft Auto as influences, and I really like the dusty, futuristic scenario that we're seeing here. The game is set in the Dead Zone, a desert where rebel groups are hiding out after an AI has taken over the world, and this led to a gang culture with bandits and robbers, but there's also a loose, strong community out here as well, so you can expect racing, raiding, car battling, and a story about the state of this world. It looks like there's a lot here as well. There is NPCs to befriend, workshops to upgrade, shops to power yourself up, cyberpunk body mods, and a detailed loadout system for both you and your car. So for people who were really jonesing for Replaced, maybe this can scratch that cyberpunk itch until April. There is a demo on Steam if you'd like to check it out, and it's coming to PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox on the 12th. That is Roadout. This next one has a bit of a mouthful of a name. Also on the 12th is Rhell, Warped Worlds and Troubled Times, a visually striking exploration game with a focus on environmental puzzles. In this game you play as a mage who is investigating why everyone they know has suddenly disappeared. Your investigation will take you through the intriguing world of Rhell. Along the way you will collect magic runes that will give you new abilities, and the interesting thing about this game is that they can be combined in all sorts of ways to solve puzzles and open the way forward in interesting ways. You can combine up to 5 spells at once, which makes for an almost endless range of permutations in how you can combine your spells, and each puzzle has multiple solutions. So as the game's store page says, if you can think of it, you can probably do it. This includes everything from transforming a rock into a pet car that will follow you around and weigh down a button to open a door, or making a twin puddle that mimics your movement and can be used to solve puzzles. So the game encourages chaotic experimentation and lateral thinking alike, which seems like a breath of fresh air, honestly. Being stuck on a puzzle sucks, and at least here you have a lot of different things to try out. That's Rhell, Warped Worlds and Troubled Times, coming to PC only for now on the 12th of the month. This next one is maybe the most ambitious looking game of the month. It is 1348 Ex Voto, made by a 15-person Italian studio called Sedlio. It's coming out on the 12th on PlayStation 5 and Steam, and it's a third-person medieval adventure set in a tumultuous pocket of Italian history. It has martial arts-inspired swordsmanship with different stances. It has a loving recreation of Italy's castles and villages of that era, and it has a story about a young knight-errant, Aether, voiced by Albie Baldwin, trying to find a missing loved one called Bianca, voiced by award-winning Jennifer English. It has some Plague Tale vibes in the setting and the environment, and it looks super cool. And I hate to have to say this again for the second month in a row, but this game features non-binary and gay characters, and so it has received another disgusting backlash from anti-woke gamers. And I just want to state the obvious and say that this channel stands against racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and the anti-woke mob. It stands with people of colour in the games industry and female, trans, gay, and non-binary actors, writers, and game developers whose presence brings gaming more in tune with the beautiful, varied world that we all live in, not less. So I am very much looking forward to 1348 Ex Voto and the story that it tells. I applaud its developers, and I'll be checking it out when it comes out on the 12th on PlayStation 5 and Steam. On the 16th, we get a game that I've been looking forward to since I tried a demo at Next Fest last summer, and that is Bonnie Bear Saves Frogtime, a cute 2D adventure game set in a world where frog battling is the sport of choice. This means that as you wander this colourful world, you will find people to play Frogtime against in short tactical bouts where you deploy your frogs against theirs. You can find new frogs with different abilities, and you can upgrade the ones that you have. And this game has a really strong story to enjoy as well, in which Bonnie decides to try and take down a local bully by becoming the Frogtime champ of the town. The game is fully voice acted and kind of hilariously voice acted as well. It has a lot of charm, and the Steam page lists its features as 1. A bear in a frog onesie, 2. A giant skeleton man, 3. A normal sized skeleton man, 4. At least 12 heartfelt moments about the importance of community and what it means to have self-worth, and 5. You can put hats on the frogs. So hopefully one of those spoke to you. I was very sold on the demo, but maybe some of those items worked for you. That's Bonnie Bear Saves Frogtime, coming to PC, Switch and Xbox on March 16th. 4 games to go, and on the 20th we get Rubato. A lot of games on this list have proclaimed themselves to be chaotic in one way or another, but few are as overtly chaotic as this one, I think. It's an experimental physics-based collectathon platformer in which our solar system has gone wrong after some kind of cosmic pool game, and playing as a long-tongued frog, we have to set it right again. That's the second frog game in a row. What's going on? The trailers show a dizzying range of gameplay, from brick breaking to an anvil stacking minigame to precision action platforming, so what this game will actually play like is a bit of a mystery, but it does look like we can expect humour and variety at the very least when Rubato lands on Steam on the 20th. On the 26th is Screamer, a pretty hyped anime car racing game that promises over-the-top high-speed races, merciless wall-slamming car combat, and, interestingly, a dystopian future sports storyline. The gist here is that a mysterious figure is hosting an underground car racing tournament. Various teams are entering, including former military people, pop stars turned screamers, astronauts who've become racers, and more. So as well as the racing itself, which looks really, really promising from everything that I've seen, we can expect some anime anime melodrama and plenty of twists and turns in both the tracks and the story. It's coming to PC, Xbox and PlayStation 5 on the 26th of the month, and I think this looks like a really promising game. That's Screamer. And that brings us to the last day of the month, the 31st, and we're getting 3 very different indie games here, and I think that these 3 games perfectly encapsulate the variety of the wider month all in one day. First up is Grime II, a Souls-like Metroidvania set in a dark fantasy world that promises challenging combat, a focus on environmental hazards that can be employed by the player to kill opponents, but that opponents can also employ to kill you, and the ability to absorb enemies and harness their powers for a varied playstyle as well. So there's some surrealism here and some interesting Lovecraftian energy too. That is Grime II. We also get Aether Iron on the 31st of the month. It is a stylish, choice-based point-and-click set in a flying steampunk realm. It has a slick film noir style, complete with trench coats and Tommy guns, and really great voice acting from the protagonist and the down-and-out denizens she'll be consorting with. The game's setting has a really compelling Art Deco style in the architecture, and it has tactical car combat, among other things. This is a really lush game that seemed to come out of nowhere. It was a big hit with the Gaming in the Wild community during our recent Next Fest event. Stay tuned to the channel if you would like to hear more about that. That's Aether Iron, out on Steam on the 31st of the month. And I've saved one of the very best games on this list for last because my second most hyped pick of the month is Raccoin, a coin-pushing roguelike. And if you've ever been on a seaside holiday as a kid, I'm sure you're familiar with coin-pushing machines, and Raccoin gives you a lot of coins to play with and get that coin-pushing satisfaction. It's a Balatro-like game that has escalating stakes that you have to hit to keep on passing the level, but you don't have to rely on physics alone because much like Balatro, you'll also get to visit a shop between rounds where you can buy everything from magnetic coins to exploding coins to giant coins to abilities like a black hole that will suck all the coins in, or a chance to shake the cabinet and collapse a coin tower, which is extremely satisfying to do. There are tons of modifiers, tricks and synergies to learn, and the final game will have different cabinets and various characters to play as. I found this to be a really addictive game. In fact, I played a little bit of it every day during Next Fest last week. My Raccoin addiction really ate into my demo time actually. That's honestly never happened to me before with a demo during Next Fest. I normally switch up pretty quickly, so there's definitely something special here. The longevity isn't tested yet, but this could just be the next Balatro. At least it's one of the contenders. That's Raccoin, a coin-pushing roguelike. And if you've made it this far into the video, I know that you're a real true indie game lover, so I want to tell you about this channel's Patreon. Every patron of this channel not only gets the warm glow of knowing they're supporting my work, but they get an invite to the Discord where they can meet literally hundreds of other indie game fans who are sharing awesome games with each other every single day. So you can become a part of the Gaming in the Wild community, support this channel, get 20 extra bonus episodes, get behind the scenes content creation thoughts, and even get a free game code. When you join the Patreon, I will send you a thank you message and I will let you know about the various games that are on offer for new patrons, and they are all handpicked by me, so it's a really good selection of games. It's the $3 tier or above if you would like a game, or the $1 tier if you would like Discord access and just to show your support. I appreciate every new patron I get. I'm really trying to make a swing at making a living out of content creation this year, so I really appreciate everyone's support. That's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. Thanks to my boss tier patrons Shy Guy, King Champ, Susanna Maria, Nate, Drellish, Reistic Studies, and Essie Woods. And with that, let's get on with the video. So just to have a quick run through the AA and AAA games that are coming out this month, on the 5th we get Pokemon Pokopia. The reviews for this one landed today and it looks like a big hit with the critics with a metascore of around 90. Apparently it's a new spin on Pokemon that ties in farming and crafting with the traditional Pokemon stuff. That's out on Switch 2 on the 5th. On the 13th we get Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection, which seems like a real step up from the previous Monster Hunter Stories games. It has some quite striking visuals and epic monster hunting adventures on offer. I watched someone streaming the demo and they were really taken with it, so I'm quite curious about it. It's coming to Switch 2, Xbox, PS5 and PC on the 13th. On the 19th, Death Stranding 2 On the Beach is coming to PC, and this was my game of the year from last year. Link on the screen now if you'd like to check out my games of the year video. It's a sprawling open world traversal sandbox with a mind-boggling sci-fi setting, some cinematic set pieces and a vast landscape to explore. It has Hideo Kojima's Strand concept, where structures that you build in your game will appear in other players' games and likewise, which gives it a strange sense of both loneliness and community in a really cool way. And it has really refined combat that vastly improve on the original game. That's Death Stranding 2 on the beach. If you have a PC, check it out on the 19th. On the 19th, we get Crimson Desert, an ambitious open-world action game with physics-based combat, colossal bosses, exploration, and a life skills system. No word yet on whether the life skills system in the game increases your social confidence and your ability to file your taxes on time. I'm guessing it's probably more to do with fireballs and sword sharpening, but let's see. That's Crimson Desert. And then on the 26th, it's time for Life is Strange Reunion, another Life is Strange game in quick succession after the poorly received Double Exposure. I quite like the Life is Strange series, but this one sees the return of Chloe, this time as a playable character, although not with her original voice actor, surprisingly. I think the jury is out on this one, but I really hope it's a success because Max and Chloe coming back together is really cool in principle at least. That's Life is Strange Reunion coming out on the 26th. And that's it for the games that are coming out this month, but this next section is taking from the Gaming in the Wild podcast, where I talk about games that I've been playing as well as what's coming out next. In this episode, I reviewed an excellent sleeper-like dice RPG called Duskpunk, and I talk about my experiences playing Romeo is a Dead Man and Persona 5 Royal, which I've finally gotten around to. So I hope that you enjoy it, and either way, I'll see you next month for another Indie Games preview, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. But I've also been playing a bunch of other stuff. I'm actually at the last chapter of Romeo is a Dead Man. You may have heard about this one if you've been paying attention to the discourse. It's a game that has come out at a Metacritic, I think 71 or something, but a 71 often means an average game, and this is not that. It's a lot of 10s and 9s and a lot of 4s, 5s, and 6s, so it's not a median game, you know, with a lot of 7s. It's a game that has split the critics in half between thinking it's amazing and thinking it's terrible, and I can see why. It's an experimental game with, I would say, AA production values, so maybe people came in expecting like a slick AAA combat game in the vein of Flintlock or something like that. This is not that. It's got a lot of rough edges, it's very jagged, it is loose, it is experimental, it's got all kinds of strange crap woven into it that is happening all of the time. It's confusing and expansive and like a little loose, basically. And I think maybe some critics have thought, this doesn't feel finished, I don't know what's happening. And some have thought, finally, someone is taking some risks. And so you've got 4s and 10s. I'm leaning towards the top side right now. But what is Romeo is a Dead Man? It's a new science fiction action game from Grasshopper Manufacture and the legendary Japanese auteur developer Suda51, who has earned a punk reputation, I would say. Hard to be a punk in game development when it is so methodical and there is so much money on the line. But Suda51 has pulled it off. This is a punk-ass video game, and I'm loving it. It was initially presented as a psychedelic splattercore hack-and-slash game in maybe the Devil May Cry kind of mold. It looks amazing and presented well on showcases, and all of that action is present and correct, but it's a lot more than that, actually. It's an experimental collage of video game styles, including a top-down pixel art hub, including odd poetic text that you get whenever you fast travel. You have to speak to the TV, to a headless man, including looping cutscenes that are almost David Lynch-like or Lynchian in how the same events play out differently every time, because it's a game about time travel and metaverse. It's irreverent, it's confusing, it's creative, and nothing that it does is perfect, but everything that it does is interesting. So I'm playing Romeo's Dead Man now, having a great time, making a lot of notes. At the last chapter, and as soon as Next Fest is over, I'm going to sit down, polish it off, and I will have a full review for you on the podcast. And I've been craving a large-scale RPG this year as well, and I've sort of dallied with a couple of things. I tried to start Kingdom Come Deliverance, and it just didn't click with my mood at the time. I tried to start an East game, East Nordics, and I wasn't quite buying that one. So I decided to dip into a game that I've had in my library for quite a long time, and it is Persona 5 Royal, the JRPG all-timer, which I bounced off, but it was 5 years ago. It was in the first flush of my new gaming era back in 2020. I'd just finished Breath of the Wild, I'd just finished Hollow Knight, and I was just dipping my toe in the water. I found the game to be humdrum, menu-heavy, and hard to grok, basically, and I kind of bounced off it. But since then, I've played a lot more JRPGs. I played Metaphor ReFantazio, which was the perfect primer for this game because it is built on the same foundation. So by playing Metaphor Fantasio, Tomato, I got into the rhythm of playing an Atlas RPG where you're min-maxing your days, you're growing your affinities, you're using your time wisely. You only get a certain amount of actions a day. So you have to build your inventory, power yourself up, get your friends powered up by becoming closer friends with them. And then you will go into dungeons, which you will have to hit 2, 3, or 4 times to complete sometimes, which is really unusual. I think most games you can kind of do a dungeon in one sitting. In Persona and Atlas games generally, that's not the case. The game also has a lot of style, which I've really come to appreciate, having played a lot more RPGs since the last time I tried it. I've realized that what Atlas does as their superpower is to make an incredibly UI-heavy game with a lot of transitions. Like a scene can be 30 seconds, and then another scene, and then another scene, and then a menu, and then a scene, and then a menu again. And it could be heavy, clunky, boring, but what Atlas does is put so much juice on every menu screen and in every transition that they're just a joy to look at. There is a lot of sugar on this game, on the UI, and I think that makes playing it actually quite appealing because you're always enjoying what you're looking at, even if it's a loading screen. It's also set in Japan. It's set in central Tokyo, so you can go and wander around a beautiful anime Shibuya. I really like the cast so far, especially Morgana, who's like a kind of mysterious magical cat who hangs out with you. So I am loving Persona 5 Royal. I've played 12 hours of it already. I know that it's a 100-hour game. That's a big ask, so I think I'm going to have it on the down low. It's going to be like a comfort game for me that I revisit throughout the year. And I've got like a personal low-key aim to try and finish Persona 5 Royal before the end of 2026 and to make an episode about it for you. 2 more items in this intro block. The first is the ROG Ally X. I recently upgraded from the ROG Ally to the Ally X. I'd been thinking about it for a long time. I'd been agonizing about whether it was worth the money to do this incremental upgrade. But I did it in the end. I took the jump. I'd been looking on eBay. I'd been searching secondhand stores. I finally found an ROG Ally X that was pristine, half price, one careful owner. And so I bought it. It's here. It has replaced my other ROG Ally, which I'm going to hand off to a friend of mine who could use it to play some PC games. So I'm going to give you a mini review of what my last couple of months with the ROG Ally X has been like. To start off with, the unit feels better in the hands. It has been reshaped a little bit. It has bigger handholds on the back with textured plastic, so it sits more comfortably in the hand. They've replaced the yawning proprietary external GPU port on the top, which is just like a big black hole on the top of your console. They've taken that away because no one is buying ROG external GPUs. They're incredibly expensive. And they've put an extra USB-C slot there instead. So it looks a lot tidier on the top. It has extra RAM. It has like a 40% increase in available RAM, which gives it a noticeable uptick in performance, both in terms of using the Armory Crate software, using Steam, using the Xbox app, using all of the perks that you get with a Windows handheld, which is like Itch, Game Pass, that kind of thing. It's got a noticeable uplift in performance whilst using apps and a really noticeable uplift in frames when playing games. It also has a 1 terabyte SSD instead of that 512, which has eliminated the need for memory cards. A terabyte, I think I've got 90 games on it right now, and I've still got 20 gigabytes spare. I do have a couple of big ones on there. I've got Frostpunk 2, I've got Persona 5, I've got one of the Mordor games I picked up in a Steam sale, and I've got Kingdom Come on there as well. So I've got a few big 20, 40 gigabyte games, but a lot of games that I play are 400 meg to 1 gigabyte. Indie games. So you can stack this thing with indie games. That larger SSD is really, really nice. It also has a battery that is almost double the size of the original ROG Ally, which has been the single biggest improvement on the device. It means that I no longer have to be constantly sweating about how close to a plug socket I am. It means if I take it on a flight, I know that I can get 2 to 2.5 hours of gaming out of it before I have to recharge it, rather than 1 hour like the old one. And it means that I can just use it around the house without constantly thinking it has to be plugged in. And it doesn't feel meaningfully heavier than the old device, which I think is surprising given how much tech is in here that wasn't in the other one. I will say that the software is still quirky, but it is less quirky than before. It's not exactly console-like still. For example, if you open Armory Crate and then try to use it using the sticks, it's like a launcher. It has all your games in there. It has all your game platforms in there. When you open it, the unit doesn't recognize that that app has been opened, and you have to touch the screen to foreground the app before you can move the stick, like every single time. There seem to be two versions of Steam. If you open it from a desktop icon, it will launch into a strange windowed version. If you launch it from Armory Crate, it will launch into a full screen native version. If you sleep the device, if you wake it up again, a game will crash, so it doesn't have instant restart. So I've turned my time before sleep right down. So lots of quirks still, but honestly, it is so much more slick than the original ROG Ally experience. I do think that the new Microsoft touchscreen gaming version of Windows that they've been working on is making a big difference. It's just taking down the friction, even if it is still a little bit quirky. So I'm loving life with my ROG Ally X, especially because I got an email from JS Orcs, the peripheral manufacturer. They've been in touch before. They've talked about sponsoring content, never quite done it, but they have sent me several big boxes of peripherals for free to try out and talk about on the podcast. The latest box, I told them, I'm getting an ROG Ally X. Could you send me a box of peripherals to review? They did so. And honestly, it has revolutionized the device again for me. They sent me a really cool dock. It has a little dongle that you pop into the top of the Ally. On the back, it has an HDMI output, power input, two USB ports, two USB-C ports. So I'm able to connect an alternate keyboard, a Razer Death Adder mouse. And as soon as I touch the power button on top of the Ally, the monitor wakes up and I'm in basically a desktop PC. And because of the extra power in the Ally, it can output at 4K. So I've actually been playing Persona 5 with an Xbox controller on my monitor in 4K at 40 frames per second using this tiny handheld, which is just blowing my mind. It also allowed me to play mouse-only games on Windows, because if you're using a Windows handheld, obviously you've got inbuilt controllers, you can't use mouse inputs, and there is a surprising number of games come out on Steam with only mouse and keyboard support, which blows my mind. It seems like such a bad commercial decision to not include control support when we are in the age of the PC handheld. People are downloading from Steam and they're playing on trains and planes and in bed, and they're buying games that they just can't play because they'll start it up and be like, oh shit, no controller support. Obviously there are ways around it. There are user-made templates and things, but some games just do not support it flat out. And in fact, Duskpunk is one of those. The reason that Duskpunk is the featured game on this episode is because I was able to play it through this docked Windows mouse and keyboard setup. So it's worked out really well. JS Orcs also sent me a bunch of other stuff. They sent me a 2-meter cable with a right angle USB-C on it, which has turned out to be amazing because if you're playing in bed and you have that USB-C jammed into the top of your ROG Ally, the wire is always pulling slightly away from the device no matter how you set it up. So having a 2-meter cable with a right angle USB-C that just goes flush into the top of the device reduces strain on the port visibly. So I'm really happy with the stuff that I got from JS Orcs. Thanks very much to them for sending me some more stuff. Everything that they have sent me has been premium feeling and with a quality build. I think JS Orcs is my single favorite peripheral make, even more so than Anchor, which is another high quality one. I feel like JS Orcs is a little bit more robust. So, shout out to them and thanks for sending me the stuff. And it really is a heartfelt recommendation. If you're wondering, if you're looking at Amazon and looking at the sea of different manufacturers for switch cases, for chargers, for cables, I recommend defaulting to JS Orcs because everything I've had has been great. Final item on the list here is that Next Fest is underway. Steam Next Fest, obviously, most wonderful time of the year, comes every quarter roughly. 3,000 plus Steam demos available for everyone to play. We always run a Patreon event around it because there are a lot of people in the Patreon who are playing demos. And there is a lot of noise in Next Fest. It's hard to get to the good stuff. Like Steam does recommend games to you, but it's not always the highest quality stuff that they are surfacing. And so this is really a collaborative effort where we all rate games together. We can look at a big spreadsheet with drop-down menus where people have rated stuff from bad through to excellent. And you can see which games a lot of people are rating as excellent. For example, right now, Densh Attack, the train, skating, stunting, QTE heavy action game, is almost universally loved by people that have been playing it, and then replaced the gritty cyberpunk voxel pixel action game with a bit of platforming and a bit of fisticuffs. People have been loving that too. That's mostly beloved by everyone who has played the demo. But a few little surprising ones are starting to come out as well. It's a really fun time of the year, and anyone can join and take part if they're a patron of the show. So it's an event that's held in the Patreon Discord. I think we've got a record number of people taking part this year, and we're going to smash our record. I think we're going to have over 100 games played by the end of the fest, which will be a first. It's a really fun event. I'm taking part too. I'm playing games that people recommend. People are picking up games that I've heavily recommended, and there's a really good conversation going on in the Discord. Big thanks to patrons Slater and Soccer, who have been managing that quite thorny spreadsheet to spit out average marks for each game and that kind of thing. And after Next Fest is over, we will get a chart of what the patrons thought was the best demo of the festival. I will produce a personal top 5 of my favorite demos of the festival, and so that will be the next episode of the podcast. But the other reason I'm mentioning it here is because there is still like 5 days of Next Fest to go. And if you are listening right now and thinking, I would like to get involved with that, I would like to see what people are loving, I would like to add my own ratings and recommendations and get into the conversation, you can join the Patreon for just $1 a month at patreon.com/gaminginthewild. However, if you join at the $3 tier, I've got a free game code to welcome you, including Signs of the Sojourner, a conversational card game, Phantom Spark, a very, very slick, enjoyable time trial sci-fi racing game that is almost like an experience of flying. I absolutely love the sense of speed in that game. I've got one code left for Ultros, I've got a few codes left 1000 times Resist, and I've got a few codes left for Many Nights a Whisper, the 2-hour game that blew my mind and ended up at the 10th spot in my Games of the Year list last year. So $3 tier or above and you can get a game. If you are an existing patron, then you can upgrade, and I will also send you a code. I will also say that we are just 4 patrons off hitting 200 active patrons, which is such a nice landmark. So if you're a long-term listener of the show or a lapsed patron, then please hop back on. It would be really nice to hit that 200 patron landmark in 2026. As always, an extra special shout out to my boss tier patrons, Shy Guy, King Champ, Susanna Maria, Nate, Drellesh, Reistic Studies, and returning boss tier patron Essie Woods. Thanks very much to Essie Woods for hopping back up to boss tier. And every patron also gets access to 20 plus bonus podcast episodes about books, movies, travel, all sorts of off-topic things. So lots more Gaming in the Wild behind the curtain as well. Link in the description, patreon.com/gaminginthewild. And with that, let's get on with the show and talk about the featured game of this episode, Duskpunk. So Duskpunk is a game that was developed and published by solo developer James Patton, who goes under the name Clockwork Bird. It is out on PC only. It lacks controller support, which is why I am reviewing it like 6 months after release, because I initially tried to play it on my Ally, no controller support. It took me setting up a mouse and monitor setup to be able to play it, so be aware of that. You will have to be at a desk to play this game. It doesn't have enough reviews on Metacritic for a score, but it has 2 8s and a 9. So if it got one more 9 out of 10 review, which is the score that I think I would give it, then it would be like, 87% on Metacritic. One of the good reviews was from Gaming Bible, who said, by the time the game came to its conclusion, I was left with an overwhelming yearning for a better future. And the feeling that is something that is wholly achievable. Duskpunk is the kind of game that makes me feel hope, unquote. The developers described this one by saying it's a gritty, dice-driven RPG in a steampunk city. You escape the war, but how to survive. Explore the city, build your skills, decide who to trust, and choose carefully. You might just spark a revolution. And I have to say of this game that it's an incredibly welcome citizen sleep-alike that casts those addictive, multifunctional dice and clock mechanics in a gritty steampunk city. It's a game that wears its politics and its big heart on its sleeve, and it was an unforgettable and gripping adventure. And for one time only, Gareth Damian Martin, the creator of Citizen Sleeper, says, "It's very much a game with its own strong vibes. Definitely recommended for sleeper fans," end quote. So Duskpunk is a Citizen Sleeper-like adventure RPG that switches out the sci-fi setting for a steampunk city. You play as a wounded soldier who washes up on the shores of Dredgeport. It's a grim city riven by crime, corruption, and gangs. There is a wide class divide between factory workers and aristocracy. There is political turmoil. There is emerging technology, specifically processing human remains, referred to as like, into a liquid power source called plasm. So that is going on. There's a new kind of factory, and corpses have become a commodity. This has created a grim new industry around death. Your first task as a homeless person in the city is to try and stabilize yourself as you are hungry, you are weak, you are half mad from what you've seen in the war, and you have flashbacks. And after stabilizing, you enter the city's underbelly. You try to survive. You can accept charity. You can panhandle. You can try and find work. You can try and carve out a place for yourself where you're not just surviving, but you're actually stabilizing, you're actually making a life. And as the game progresses, you can work on your stature within various communities. There are several factions in the game that are all pretty interesting, and you can eventually start to wield influence over the events unfolding around you. The game uses the same tabletop-inspired gameplay foundation of Citizen Sleeper. So if you've played Citizen Sleeper, you will feel immediately at home here. You will be rolling the dice against your skills as a primary method of ascertaining success in any situation. For example, walking down a street, someone might try and bump into you to take your wallet. You can have a little dice check, and whether they get away with it or not will depend on whether you hit the right score, check against your skills to, throw them off, keep your wallet, or whether they grab it and they slip away. The game also features clocks that gradually tick down for major story events, creating pressure and stakes. So you will get important jobs that you have to carry out within 8 in-game days, for example. If you don't make it in time, you will see the ramifications of that and you will fail the mission. There is also quite a detailed in-game economy with various currencies like money, like various forms of information, from gossip to rumors to tip-offs. Public sentiment can become a currency as well. Tools that you can manufacture into parts, which you can manufacture into devices, which are incredibly valuable and sometimes necessary for story progress, and various forms of valuables like antiquities and finery. And they all interact and interlock. So in various places around the map, you can buy and sell and exchange to try and get what you need to stay alive and ultimately to, progress the game. A lot of these mechanics are based on the tabletop game Blades in the Dark, and that's where Gareth Damian Martin took a lot of inspiration for Citizen Sleeper, but Gareth was quite selective in which parts were taken and reworked for Citizen Sleeper, and Duskpunk has its own personality. It reworks the rules of Blades in the Dark in a different way. It makes some different foundational decisions, and so whilst it's based on the same rule set, it is very much distinct from Citizen Sleeper. For example, time works differently here. In Citizen Sleeper, you get a certain amount of dice at the start of the day. You can spend them how you see fit, and then your day will be over. In this game, that doesn't happen. You can roll the dice at any time. However, the things that you choose to do will advance time in the day-night cycle. It does have a day-night cycle where a location might be like a busy town square by day and then take on a more seedy quality at night, which means that different actions are available, different characters might be around, and that brings the city to life a little bit. We're not on a space station here. We are on a planet, we're on a landmass, we're in a city, and so day-night cycle makes a lot more sense here than in Citizen Sleeper, so perhaps that's why it came out this way. It made me perceive my days more clearly. The way that it is done in Duskpunk, like the day-night differences are really cool, and sometimes you will find yourself needing to do something that can only happen at night, and then using your days to try and, fill your purse or advance a certain side quest. So it became very involved in a way that I really liked. And also, like Citizen Sleeper 2, dice can be broken in this game. In this game, your character is half mad, as I said. They've seen a lot in the war. They are in a lot of physical pain. They're in a lot of mental anguish. And they have a sanity meter, basically. And in the game, you have to score a drug to inject yourself, to calm yourself down and stop yourself from going crazy, at least in the early game there. So you have to find a source of it. It's a little bit like, I guess, the serum that you need in Citizen Sleeper to stay alive, except it's a heroin-like drug here that is used to stop your character from going mental. If you don't have enough to stay sane, you will break a dice, you will get a skull will appear on one of your dice faces, on one of the faces of your 2 dice, rather. But unlike Citizen Sleeper 2, the dice can be fixed very easily by healing your condition. So it gives a little more, having broken dice that can't be fixed and a lot of glitch dice in Citizen Sleeper 2 was a particularly punishing take on dice breaking. And in Duskpunk, it's a little more giving, which I think will be music to the ears of some people who didn't quite jive with Citizen Sleeper 2 for those reasons. But sanity is not the only health meter that your character has. You also have literal physical health, and you have a hunger level. So you've got 3 different meters to manage, including the sanity meter as well. And you have to juggle finding resources like food, medical attention from a sawbones, and the soporific heroin-like medicine, which means that you need to mind your wallet, which means you need to mind things like you can't sleep if you're hungry because you will lose health. So you have to remember to eat throughout the day. Otherwise, you will lose physical health when you sleep. Every night, you have to find a place to sleep, which initially is pretty tenuous and difficult, but opens up as the game goes on. I'm not going to spoil all of the things that happen, but you go from like sleeping in a town square to other arrangements. You roll the dice when you sleep. If you roll low, you get nightmares, which increases your anxiety and sanity meter. If you roll high, then you will get sound sleep, which actually heals you. And at first, it's really hard to have a sound sleep, which I think was an interesting way to express the condition of your protagonist through the dice. There is also a quest structure. You have a little Citizen Sleeper style diary that tells you the different quests that you have. You can click on them and then you'll get a pin on the map showing you where to go to progress your quest. You have story quests, side quests, sub-aims, and things like that. And you have to just find enough money to stay alive, whether it's through petty crime, buying and selling, doing jobs for people, and so forth. And that really works, Duskpunk really does get to that sleeper-like place where you feel pulled in various directions at once. And the game has so much going on at any given time, where you're zipping around the map, you're clicking on places, you're meeting people, you're trying to make money, you're trying to do quests, you're trying to manage your meters, that I went into a flow state with it. Constantly making micro decisions pulls you into the world. And as the story unfolded around me, I was engaged, I felt empowered, and it really did feel like the choices I was making put the destiny of my character in my own hands. I felt present in this game's world, rather than watching from afar as the story pulls you along. Rather than being on rails in a narrative game, I felt like an active participant in a really vibrant, living world. I enjoyed the progression a lot in this game as well. The city is cleverly segmented into 3 boroughs, like the poor area, the industrial area, the docks, and then the political area, which is last, where the rich people live and where the seats of power in Dredgeport are. And that meant that the play area grows as the player does. Like on Erlin's Eye, you start off with a rough area to explore, but no specific locations to visit. So you might be like in the rich area of town, you'll spend some dice to explore, and then a playhouse will be revealed, or the government office will be revealed, or, the presidential palace will be revealed, or a small town square will be revealed, and you can then go and further explore those places, unlock them by, becoming a regular at a bar, for example. And then as the bar opens up and people start to trust you, you might be able to find gossip and rumors there. You might be able to eat there. You might be able to sleep there. So it really is a matter of slowly unlocking the map by spending your dice wisely, which really does feel like exploring the city. It really worked out for me. The city also has a personality. You will find like a burned down quarter and you will wonder what it is. And by investigating it at day and at night and prying into its mysteries, you can figure out the history of this city, which I think really helped with the personality of Dredgeport. You do get the sense of a city that is built on a troubled history, a little bit like Revachol and Disco Elysium, and the various factions that you will meet sketch out the shape of this society and how these factions came to be as well. There are the Watchers. One of the first people you will meet is a Watcher. These are a monk-like religious sect that are good on the face of it, that are charitable, that try and help the homeless, but also there is a price for that help. They do exhibit some cult-like tendencies as well. So the Watchers are an interesting faction. There are the factory workers and the dock workers, the working class of Dredgeport, who are oppressed, exploited, tired, and not yet organized, but maybe could become organized. There are the brutal like dealers who trade in bodies and secrets, and the Soma-like drug that you need to stay sane. And then there are some others that I won't spoil for you. Every faction has a route to joining, but they also come with drawbacks. For example, the like dealers, you may gain power and influence if you join the like dealers, but you will also have to do bad things. So there is like a personal, ethical aspect to the decisions you will make and the factions you will align yourself with. And I thought that was really interesting. Nothing comes easy. Everything has a bit of a twist in the tail. I found the main characters of this game to be memorable and well rendered. I liked the tasks that they give you, the side quests they give you. They are things that that character wants. There are things that you can decide to do or not do based on whether you think it is right. But if you do complete one of those, you will get a skill point. Your character has various skills like physical skirmishing, sneaking, persuasion, charm, that kind of thing. So you can add points and get extra dice abilities and decide what kind of character you would like to roleplay. So there is like a functioning roleplay element to the game as well, about what kind of person you want to be in Dredgeport. Some of that is tied into the politics of the game. It has some quite on-the-sleeve Marxist politics here about working class consciousness, aristocracy, exploitation. You can hear speeches, you can join groups, and ultimately you will have to pick a side in some fairly tumultuous events in Dredgeport as well. Funnily enough, several of the game's most negative Steam reviews are from people who loved the game, loved the mechanics, loved the art, the sound, the story, but really didn't like the fact that they were made to engage in left-wing politics, or at least they felt they were made to engage with it. It's funny to me that they decided to go with the workers when there are choices to go with other parties as well, and then came online and complained about it. But for the record, the Steam reviews are overall very positive, so most people who played this game seem to have their heads screwed on. And a few words about the art whilst on that subject. You get character portraits that are nicely made, I would say. You get location images, which is something that Citizen Sleeper 2 did not have. So you will see like a painted version of the exterior of a factory or, a marketplace, etc., which I really enjoyed. I get the feeling they are digital Procreate drawings, if you know what I mean. And I will say that I did have to go and check if AI was used, just because of the general sort of digital art, smoothed off look of the art. But there are artist credits on the game. There are no AI disclosures. So I guess we're giving it the benefit of the doubt here and saying it's just a stylistic similarity, because digital painting and what AI generates can look similar at times. The sound of the game is good. It has that Citizen Sleeper style atmospheric sound, like the clanging of a factory, the raucous hubbub of a pub, the busy streets, etc. And it chills down at night with owl cries and nefarious rustling sounds and things like that. So the sound really helped to evoke the atmosphere of the city. The music was, good, fine. It worked with the atmosphere of the game. Not memorable, not a soundtrack that I'm going to be sticking on, but it worked for the game, and that's good enough for me. So whilst Duskpunk is not like a lush aesthetic triumph like Citizen Sleeper was, in terms of, the look, the sound, the music, the drawings, the writing all rhymed so well in Citizen Sleeper and were all exemplary, I would say that Duskpunk isn't quite at that level, but everything is good. So whilst it's not perhaps a home run in the same way that Citizen Sleeper was aesthetically, it gets the job done very, very well. But I do want to talk about this game's rough edges as well. I think it is harsh to compare this game to Citizen Sleeper, which had fellow traveler involved. It had a publisher, and so I'm sure there was some, testing, some QA, some console ports, some bug fixing, maybe extra breathing space based on having additional budget. And so I think it is understandable. This is largely a self-funded game. The Culture Fund of Vienna, I believe, contributed to it as well, to give the developer time to make the game, but it does have a lot of rough edges that weren't present in Citizen Sleeper. This kind of game has, by nature, a lot of permutations, where player choice will result in an astounding number of scenarios. And so the game features quite a few continuity errors. One example, there's a scene where a monk friend of yours is comforting a dying man. You can choose to enter the scene and go to the man's side. You can choose to hang back and watch from afar. I was feeling a little suspicious of my monk friend at this time and didn't really want to get too involved with his religion, so I hung back, but then the text flashed perspective forward and said that like the monk looks into your eyes as he holds the man's hand and the wife is sitting at your side. And I was like, wait a second, that's not what I chose to do. In my mind, I'm sitting at the back of the church on a pew, but the game has whipped me forward as if I had made the other choice. So that happens a few times, like the perspective shifts around a little bit as if every permutation wasn't fully written. I think there were also some pretty major missing location descriptions. Like, for example, there is a place called the Amphitheatre. If you go there, there is no description of the amphitheatre. There is just an option to eat rat. And I was like, what the fuck kind of, what kind of amphitheatre is this? Like, are there not people here? Are there not players here? I mean, I guess the concept was that it was disused, which you do find out later, but that's not in the description of the place. There's another place called the Sleeping Dog, which I guess is like a DOS house where you can sleep for cheap, take drugs, calm yourself down, etc. But there is no description of it. So you go to the Sleeping Dog and all you can see is sleep or take drugs. And you're like, well, where am I? So there is a jarring lack of context. That is a pretty big oversight, I would say. Places need descriptions and several were missing. Also, the systems aren't quite as clean as in Citizen Sleeper. It's not always clear what a major clock is for. Like if you hover over a clock, you don't see what quest it is related to. So I took a 3-day break from playing this game and then forgot a few things. And then when I reopened it, there was a big clock ticking down, something to do with the watch. I thought it's probably just an unavoidable story event. I'll just keep playing. When that clock ticked down, I failed 3 quests and realized that it was essential for those quests that I did certain things in that time. But if there was no way to refresh yourself on that, so you really do have to, play this game in as few sittings as possible because it is not going to hold your hand or support play unless you are really on point with exactly what things on screen mean. It's not going to give you extra cues. It's not going to let you refresh yourself. There are some missing links, basically, between important clocks and quests. Like if you hovered over the clock and then there was a pop-up for which quests it was related to, that issue would have been avoided. And there is like a Pyre-style hypertext system where you can hover over important words and it will tell you what they mean. So that could have been instituted for the clocks as well. The final rough edge I have is some story mix-up moments. Like at one point I went into a pub, I was trying to talk my way into a secret meeting. Suddenly I flashed across town to another secret meeting under a bridge. And then when that meeting was over, was then whisked back to the tavern as if, I just teleported across the city. I don't know if it's because that event secret meeting was labeled the same in 2 different paths and they got tangled up or something like that. If that is the case, then shout out to the game for being robust enough to not crash, but it definitely broke my immersion in that moment. So there are some story mix-up moments here, and I think that that's kind of common in these tangled RPG games. Like, it's something that we're used to in Bethesda games. Like if you're doing an escort mission, but the place that you're going to is destroyed, then suddenly you've got this like lost sheep NPC who is just by your side forever. So, I mean, even Bethesda games have problems recognizing and accounting for all of the possible story permutations that the game throws up. Citizen Sleeper had a couple of those, but very, very few, and Duskpunk has a lot of them. As I said at the start here, it's understandable, but it is something to watch out for. A few rough edges on this game, but none of them tanked the experience. I think I had 1 hard crash in my whole playthrough, and I just had a raised eyebrow as I saw these things happening. It's a solo dev project, it doesn't have a publisher, so some understandable roughness to it, I would say. And interestingly, James Patton did publish a post-mortem 1 month after release on Steam, which addressed some of what I'm talking about. In relation to what I've just been saying, James said, quote, "I wish I'd realised that weaving the main quest into the side quests this closely would require a ton more writing to account for various player choices," unquote. James has also said, quote, "Duskpunk has sold about 1,500 units since launch 4 weeks ago. It's got 17,000 wishlists and a 91% positive rating on Steam. It cost about 100,000 euros to make, but I got a grant from the Vienna Business Agency for about 66,000. That means it needs to sell about 4,500 more units to break even. I'd feel better if it had reached 2,000 by now, but these are still solid numbers for a narrative title. I think it will break even in about 2 years. Not ideal, but it will be a decent financial foundation for me as a solo dev." Unquote. This is a $20 game, I think, and I played it for, I want to say, 6.5 hours. The game would stand a replay. There are certainly some missions that I failed. There are some factions that I didn't bring up to snuff before the ending. I did get a good ending. I'm sure there is a bad one, but it took a little bit of strenuous concentration towards the end of the game and real understanding of all of the mechanics that were on offer to actually pull off the ending that I wanted. But I would be very curious to see where else this story goes. So I do think it has replay value if that is something that concerns you. And hearing that story from James, I just hope that some people who are listening to this go and buy Duskpunk and support this solo developer. This is a very, very ambitious project for a solo dev. And I would love to see it do well for them because it really does deserve it. It's a good game. I think Gareth's remark that it was very much its own world is true. It is a rich game world. It has a vibe. It has a personality. And it's a big recommendation from me. Just to finish off that post-mortem there, James did say, quote, "I did a good job of boiling down the basics of Marxism in a few key scenes and smuggling them in. I wanted to portray a revolutionary workers' movement that made sense, felt like an actual mass movement, and wasn't just a bunch of freedom fighters blowing stuff up," end quote. So if that sounds interesting to you, that is a really cool aspect of this game as well. It does look at resistance, it does look at organization, and it's nice to see that in a game for sure. So just to round out this review with the good things and the bad things, good. The scenario, the vibe, the setting, Dredgeport is amazing. It's a living city. It has history. It has a Disco Elysium style depth to its history that you can find in optional locations like temples, statues, the burned down quarter. There is a lot of lore here and a lot of narrative for you to untangle. The sleeper-like gameplay is tight, it's addictive, it's active, it brings you into the moment, it makes you feel like an active participant in the story. It has vivid characters in terms of both writing and art. The pacing of the game is good with 3 different areas to explore that are very distinct. I liked the difficulty curve of stabilizing in the game. It felt like progress and it gave me that feeling that I got in Citizen Sleeper. If you have been craving that feeling of how that game felt to play, then this is a good game to play. The economy and the systems are engrossing. The political dimension is fleshed out and essential to the game's personality, actually. Political consciousness lies at the core of this game, and I was very happy with the resolution that I got and curious about the others. As for the bad things, those rough edges do add up, so be aware of that going in. Be kind to them when they happen. There are those missing location descriptions, there are the tangled clocks, UI miscommunications about which clock is connected to which task. But I think overall it dented the experience, but it did not tank it. So if you're aware of that going in, then I think you can be prepared, you know what I mean? And to conclude, overall, I'm very happy that I played this game. I hope that it is not the last sleeper-like. I hope that this developer breaks even. I hope that maybe even they get enough money to fix some of the issues that I've mentioned. That post-mortem blog post does talk about correcting a few pieces of writing and going back into the game with a patch. So if the developer is listening to this, then well done on this amazing game. I hope that those points that I made were useful to you. I do also wonder if controller support might not open a bigger audience for the game. 15% of the people on Steam are playing on controllers. Many of those are Steam Deck people, and I think it would help the reach of this game amongst enthusiasts. And the people who buy Steam Decks are enthusiasts. They're willing to spend money on gaming. They're probably buying more games, So I would say that controller support would be very welcome and maybe even pave the way for a console release one day. Who knows? If enough people play it, maybe a publisher would get involved. Overall, I loved the game. I will play it again. I want to do a villain run maybe. I really enjoyed this game. It had such a strong vibe, such a strong personality. It would definitely have made the honourable mentions if I'd played it before Games of the Year time. I hope this review has piqued your interest. That is Duskpunk. This is John from the future. Hope you enjoyed that review, and to the few of you who are probably still listening right here at the end of the video, I just want to say a big thank you for hanging out with me for the last hour. If you'd like to say thanks for this content, you're welcome to join the Patreon. $1 tier for a Discord invitation, $3 tier to get a free game with that as well, and a personal thank you from me as well. And until the next one, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.